Okay, so in our actual second part, this is a video of our interview in continuation because the live broadcast signal would not be stable enough for us to stream this properly. So there won't be any more cutting off, but this is the continuation of the discussion that we was initially airing. So please continue.
So that is the reason for the reorganization of council. Once they reorganize and make Korean president, then they could appoint their person that they want on the council, who was Lateef Shabazz, who was one of the people who was instrumental in the recall efforts against Mayor King. So that's why you now have 6 people sitting in on the council in council meetings, because we have the person that the administration recognizes and the person that those 3 members of council recognize, and that will likely play out in the courts at some point.
So to recap for the audience, this is Heather Mccollough, the Assistant Law Director for East Cleveland, Ohio, who you are seeing convey all of this very important and very not understood information until now. And what we have been discussing is the appointment or the malappointment of Lateef Shabazz as opposed to Nate Martin, the former city council president, appointing Mark McLean. So as Heather has laid out the understanding from her assistant law director position, she has informed all of us that Nate was in his proper boundaries and guidelines to elect or appoint Mark McLean, but Corrine Stevenson, Patricia Bloviak, and Patricia Gowdy got together and decided that they were going to appoint Lateef Shabazz, and the apparent reason for that is because Lateef was a part of the recall of the mayor and Ernest Smith, and it is undeniable, whether you want to view it this way or not, it is undeniable that the motives of these 3 women are really is really a power grab of the East Cleveland City Council, and that's why we are walking through the explanation of how we got from where we were last December in terms of having the most important necessity of passing a budget to them being fully focused on imploding the city by not passing a budget, electing their own replacement for Ernest, and then endeavoring to give themselves what amounts to almost $50,000 pay raises. But we haven't gotten to that point yet. We are still explaining to you how these appointments came about, and from the law director, from Heather McCullough's position, Nate acted within his proper guidelines when he was president, but then when he was removed, Corrine Stevenson, now as the new council president, Patricia Bloviak and Juanita Gowdy, did not act within proper guidelines to appoint Lateef Shabazz. So you can continue.
Well, that's basically the gist of why we have 6 people sitting in the council seats, even though only one is being recognized by the administration and a different one is recognized by 3 members of the council.
Right.
So
Creating even more division.
So, which then brings me to the budget, because there was still a budget that needed to be passed by the end of the year by whoever's sitting on the council.
Right. Now, how important is the passing of this budget?
Well, that's how services are rendered to the residents of the city. That's how salaries are paid. That's how things get done.
Okay.
And so what was on the table were the mayor's appropriations for the year. Things don't stay the same every year.
Right.
You know, prices can go up, other things need to be factored in. So there were some changes to the last appropriations, and all he was asking was that the council vote for that.
Right.
There were budget hearings where
Right.
every department got to come down before the council and explain what was in their budget and why it was needed and whether or not any changes needed to be made.
Right.
All of that was completed. They were still saying, well, we don't understand this and we don't understand that and we don't understand what other means.
Right.
So in one of the it was supposed to be a council meeting, but it turned into a mayor's meeting because those three same people would not come to the meeting.
Oh, wow.
Because they did not. They said they had COVID and or had been exposed to COVID, but then turned around at the end of the week and wanted to come to a different meeting. So, but in that, all the changes that were made, they decided to come up with their own changes. And they claimed that they were doing that to assist the city. And they were saying that they were doing that because the mayor is misspending money. But they never tell you how it's misappropriated. They never tell you how it's missing or what's missing. They just say it's being misappropriated.
Right.
We don't know where the money's going. So there's a line in the budget in the certain departments that says other. So during that meeting, our finance director, Charles Heahan, went through not just our budget, but he went to other budgets. He looked at the city of South Euclid, and I believe also Cleveland Heights, and showed how they use that same term.
Right.
That's a miscellaneous term to encompass things that could come up that you don't expect.
Right.
Like the mayor put it, like what happened with COVID.
Right.
Nobody knew that you were going to need to spend money on PPE.
Right.
So you can't write in every little thing.
Right.
So you have to have some money set aside just in case. For
Some
something
wiggle
like
room,
that.
so to speak. Yeah.
And that's not unusual, and they all do it. And
Or
this
rainy
is
day
showing-
fund or something
but-
to that effect.
But Juanita Gowdy, and I know because I was there, was telling people, well, we don't know what other means, and we just think it's just going into the mayor's pocket. So, just to make
That
sure
level
people,
of ignorance, I got to stop you right there, because that level of ignorance is why we're here, and that's one of the things that must be addressed. You cannot appoint people who don't even have a basic understanding of civics, let alone how actual city government is supposed to work, and then appoint those people because you don't think that they are any other viable candidates, and that's why we're in this mess.
what they don't understand or don't care to understand is that the mayor can't just go spend money. We're in fiscal emergency. City of East Cleveland's been in fiscal emergency for years. So there's the fiscal commission they have to answer to. There's fiscal oversight committee that they have to answer to. We have a company that the city pays just to audit the books every year. So every dime that is spent is accounted for in some way. I had to write a memo to the finance department to explain why I needed $10 for parking.
Yeah, I remember that story.
So so the mayor can't just write checks and go spend money at it. He has to account for that. Because even if the people in the finance department at the city aren't looking, there are other people, the fiscal commission, the auditors, everybody's looking to see where this money is going. So this idea that he can just write checks and do whatever he wants is just a fallacy.
Right.
Now,
Let's talk about those checks for a moment that people were getting, because that's one of the things they've been trying to hang their hats on is, well, the mayor is giving out all this money to the people of East Cleveland. Can you clarify that?
I believe we were talking about the $3,000.
Right, stimulus or whatever they were calling that.
That was a grant.
Oh, that was a grant.
Well, these are monies that's coming in that's federal. That's, from the COVID,
Right.
the $26 million that were stimulus funds that were used that came, yes, from the federal government.
So that's not an actual part of the city budget, is it?
No.
So, but they are couching their accusations or using the mayor giving out government money that doesn't have anything to do with the actual city budget, like he's giving away, like he's giving a house away, and that apparently is not true.
No, those were homeowners were given $3,000 to do fix-ups on their home, whatever they could do with that $3,000.
Right.
Then there were $300 stimulus checks that
Okay.
were given to seniors.
Okay. Oh, okay.
These are not big dramatic sums of money. And if you recall, Juanita Gowdy actually stated that she wanted to give the homeowners $5,000. So you don't even have an agreement amongst the council members who are opposing the mayor as to what was supposed to be done with the money. You have Karina Stevenson saying that they shouldn't get any money at all. And you have Juanita Gowdy saying he's not giving enough. So, but in either case, you're still the council is still supposed to go through and approve certain things.
Right.
So that this idea that they're just spending money willy nilly, they still have the federal government to answer to.
Right.
If this money is spent improperly, there's going to be held to pay.
They're going to be held accountable.
So yeah, so that's not going to happen.
Okay.
So they're now coming up with their own budget.
Right.
So they took what the mayor wrote and decided to just. It's very personally done. You can tell that they're attacking certain things. So, like the law department was zeroed out. There were no.
What do you mean zeroed out?
People are paid. People's names are not attached to certain things, and so they're put in as a line item. Professional services, things of that nature.
Okay.
So they zeroed out all the professional services. So that means
Oh my
that
God.
Technically, I just learned the other day that I don't get a check.
What?
The law director doesn't get a check.
Do they get a check? Do they get a check?
I don't think that theirs goes anywhere. So while they're saying that they're looking out for people's salaries, not everybody's. So they may be looking out for police, they may be looking out for fire. But if your money came through a line item, it's gone. They zeroed that out. Now, so they're cutting out the grass cutting. And let me say, because there was nothing I couldn't get into it during the meeting, but there was Patricia Bohoviak says, well, we want to cut out the grass cutting and plant microclover and have the Shaw High students participate in this. Well, before you cut something out of a contract, you ought to have a plan in place.
Right.
And to my knowledge, there is no plan to purchase microclover. You do not have a plan.
What is microclover anyway?
You've seen the little clover that grows on the ground, and like someone even pointed out, that's usually something that grows more in the shade. But she looks at that as a way to not have a grass cutting contract.
That's ridiculous.
First off, I would think that something like that would have to go before the voters so that the voters can decide if they want the grass to be yanked up and microclover planted instead. Then how much does that cost?
Wow.
She didn't say how much that would cost. I guess she's thinking, well, the Shaw High students can do it and that would cut the cost. How do you know that the Shaw High students want to be involved in that?
Exactly.
Do you have a plan? Did you go to Shaw High and talk to any of the officials and get their okay on this?
Did you talk to any of the public? Because why would I want to see microclover as opposed to natural grass?
So that was so they wouldn't need a grass cutting contract because they keep saying that Peacock is a friend of the mayor, so he shouldn't have this contract. Then they said they didn't want to pay the toll lot attendants anymore. The toll lot, as the mayor has stated, the toll lot manages itself. It pays for itself. So it's not like they're taking money out of the budget to pay toll lot attendants. Secondly, do you want to take our limited police officers and have them babysit cars?
Right.
Because that's what you would do.
How was that? How was that?
Because that was her plan. She wanted to use the current police staff to sit on the cars in the toll lot rather than pay people who would be likely paid less money to sit on the toll lot and babysit the car. Because someone has to be there to monitor the vehicles. Otherwise, they could be vandalized, they could be stolen, anything could happen. You know, maybe they're used as evidence. You can't just have them just sitting there. Someone has to monitor those cars. People don't always pick their cars up right away when they're
No, they
towed.
don't.
Sometimes they may sit there
They
for
don't
days,
have the money.
weeks, and sometimes even months. So someone has to watch those. And it would be irresponsible to take a police officer off the street who may be needed for a call to go sit on and babysit a car.
Wow.
So
is that the current state of what we have now?
No. Well, right now, I don't believe anything has changed. Everything is still in place. It's just a matter of, are people going to be paid? Because right now, under the budget that they passed, all of that is cut out. Which brings me to the next thing. Now they're saying they're doing all of this because we have to cut. We're spending too much money. We're spending more money than we have, so we have to cut the budget. Really? So what they're neglecting to mention to the people is that while they were cutting the budgets of other departments, they were increasing their own budget.
I know that.
Now, if you recall, just last election season, spearheaded by Nathaniel Martin, who they're now all against, they received a $15,500 a year raise.
Wow.
Originally, the council members made $4,500 a year, and that's admittedly low.
Right.
$20,000 a year is rather high
Right.
for such a small municipality.
Right.
It doesn't even compare with some of the other municipalities around it, who some of them are making maybe $9,000 a year or something
Right.
like that. So
it's
they're
really
all-
not meant to be a full-time job where you can retire from and get a 401k and buy a $500,000 home. That's not why you get on East Cleveland City Council, if you want to make that kind of money.
But what gets to me about this is they got this $15,500 raise, so they're now making $20,000 a year. They're saying that they need to cut the budget, but in addition to that, in the budget that they passed, they also passed giving themselves a $15,000 a year expense account,
Oh, wow.
as well as $50,000 for each counselor for community projects.
Oh my gosh! So that would up their personal or private income to what, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 when you include all of the additions that.
Per counselor.
Wow.
So they're saying that they're making all of these cuts because of the budget and how we're spending too much money, but they gave themselves a raise.
Wow. So now their agenda for attacking the mayor, for getting rid of people who don't want to go along with their scheme or their scam to enrich themselves, apparently this seems to be the driving motivation behind so much of what they're doing. And I'm just a layperson.
It looks very targeted and personal and a little vindictive.
Right.
When you have to have a law department. So how do you cut out the line item that pays the law director, whether you like her or not? And let's be clear, when they say, well, it doesn't go by the charter. Technically, it doesn't. However, what Willa Hemmons does is she does the work of a law director for half the pay and no benefits.
Oh my goodness.
So, no, it doesn't align with what the charter says, but she's still doing the job like a full-time person, and she's doing it for half. The former law director, the last law director that got paid around $92,000 a year.
Oh my goodness.
Plus benefits.
Wow.
So when you say you don't want her to do it, I don't know too many people who are going to come in and do that job for what she gets paid.
Right, and have the qualifications.
And no benefits.
Right, qualifications, the experience, the knowledge, the familiarity, all that.
So she's saving the city money.
Right. And how long has Willa been in that position?
I don't know. She came on when Director Riley retired. So 2014, 2015, somewhere around in there. She was the prosecutor, and then after he left, when Norton brought her back on, I believe, and that's when she became the law director. So,
and then you started around 2018.
Yes.
Okay, and then the mayor, our current mayor, Brandon King, he was elected when?
Well, first, he became mayor when Mayor Norton was recalled.
Okay.
So he was then council president.
Okay.
So as council president, you are the successor when the mayor is recalled.
Okay.
And then he had to run in 2017, I believe.
Okay.
And so he took office, I believe, 2018.
Okay, and
Or, I mean, he was elected in
okay, and these
2017.
and whoops, ooh, clean up on all three.
I am so sorry. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine.
You were great, by the way.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, over there.
that's all
Also
now.
here, but
So, so how long are the terms of
Council?
no East Cleveland mayor and council? Yeah,
I believe it's 6 years.
6 years. Okay, for each
For
position.
both, yeah.
Okay. So wow. So the mayor isn't due to be up for re-election until when?
Yeah, it should be. That's funny. Because after after the recall, it's coming up. It's coming up soon.
2024, 25, 26.
Next year, if not this year. Funny.
Okay.
I had to think about it because 2017, 6 years would be this year.
Okay. So we know it's coming up.
It's coming up.
Okay. Okay. And so with that being said, and with what we are seeing with these three women, it would seem as though at least one of them has direct designs on becoming mayor.
Well, two already ran. Juanita Gowdy and Crean Stevenson both ran against him the last time he was elected.
Okay.
Oh, so no, he's not coming up again for a while. That was just 2 years ago, I think.
Okay. So yeah, it's like 4 more years ago.
Right.
Okay, good. Okay. So, with that being said, what is the current state of the city with no clerk of council? And
Well, let me speak on that for
Okay.
a moment. In that the clerk of council, the charter says that the council president shall appoint a council clerk. So she has not done so. Now, why might she not want to do that? Because the charter indicates that the clerk is supposed to be, getting any recall petitions. She knew because it was made no secret there were a number of citizens and community leaders in East Cleveland who had become disenchanted with Crean Stevenson, Juanita Gowdy, and Patricia Bohoviak, and made no secret that they plan to have efforts to recall them. So it would appear as though the council president is leaving both positions unoccupied because shortly after she came, well, we'll say the same evening that she became the council president, both the clerk and the deputy clerk were fired. So, if they're not there, who then collects the recall petitions? Who then takes them and certifies them to the Board of Elections?
oh wow,
To our knowledge, there has been no efforts to seek a new clerk, no postings for the position to be open. No efforts have been made to fill that position. Why? Because they think that if they don't, they don't have to worry about being recalled.
but
At
what
least
about
that's
all the
how
other
it
critical
appears.
work? But what about all the other critical work that
Well, see, they have attempted to get around that by having people act as clerk for meetings. Mansell Baker was acting as their secretary, I believe.
I saw that, and then Justin Anderson.
also acted
How
as
can they
clerk.
just pick people like
I don't know. They are not employees of the city,
right?
but they are there for council meetings. But that's it. They do not do Zoom. They do not handle the agendas. They're
I know
just there
there's
to-
no longer any Zoom footage because they yanked out all of the equipment so that.
Well, it's not about the equipment. The equipment's there. You just have to know how to use it. You just have to know what to do.
Okay.
And so.
But I learned from Tracy that they yanked out her access to do any remote work from home because that was
Well, that was before she was fired.
right.
Yeah,
That was the beginning of her end
Right.
because they were trying to.
Well, that was when Miss Stevenson chose to go into our office and sit in her chair and start unplugging things so that she couldn't work.
So Tracy couldn't work. Is that legal to do that? To
Well,
disrupt, to obstruct and disrupt government like that? That's obstruction.
We'll let authorities that are not involved in these Cleveland neutral parties, they are looking at that. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to make that decision. So, but other people are looking into, I'm sorry, whether or not it was legal for her to go in and literally, as the statute would say, disrupt public servants.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. This is incredible. You know, just from what you have covered in the past 20 minutes or so, it's just been so revealing and so riveting.
I want to say that this group in particular have counted on the residents of East Cleveland to not be knowledgeable,
Right.
to not watch the council meetings, to just go by what they say.
Right.
And if you just listen to what they say, they come across as, oh, we're just looking out for East Cleveland. But if you pay attention to what they actually do, if you look at their conduct, and right now there are streams, thanks to Mr. Barkley here, as well as others, where you can see their behavior during council
Oh
meetings.
my goodness,
When-
it is
when the
absolutely
residents attempt to
pathetic.
question them about what they're doing, they shut them down.
I've been
They
kicked
don't let
out.
them speak.
I've been
They
kicked
kick
out. I've
them
been
out.
threatened.
The most recent meeting started off with a threat to
Yes.
kick people out.
Right.
And
So
then
why
they-
is Mansell, I'm so glad you brought that point up. Why is Mansell Baker, who is not even appointed, elected, paid a dime for what he's doing, why is he standing up there issuing threats as a actual cop who doesn't even work for East Cleveland? Why is he issuing threats that he will put you in jail and file formal charges on you just for talking in the meeting?
Well, during the council meetings, they are in charge. So they can decide who can be there and who cannot. So if you are disruptive, they have the ability to put you out. So he himself is acting as an arm of them. So they
Is
are-
that even legal?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't
And that's
know
what
how-
needs to be clarified, because there are just so many uncertainties and gray areas in terms of, is this legal? Is this right? Is this allowable? Is this permissible? And that's what these discussions need to really prove or disprove, because
Unfortunately, the East Cleveland Charter does not cover every little contingency.
Right.
So some of these.
But
things
whoever
come down
expected
to-
this, though?
Well, exactly. So you have a situation where, does Robert's rules cover this? You know, we're unclear, but we just. I'm sorry.
You need some
It's
water?
Weather. It's the weather.
Oh, it's the
It
water.
makes-
Okay.
So I don't believe we've had a situation where we've had two people who are not employees of the city acting in roles with the council.
Like they are.
And
So what you're saying is that the president of Mansell Baker and Justin Anderson, as East Cleveland officials who are not East Cleveland officials, has never happened.
well, I won't say never. I've only been there since 2018. I don't recall. It hasn't happened since I've been there,
Right.
and I haven't heard about it happening prior.
Right.
So this is new territory. So some questions are not. I don't have ready answers for, because everybody is still kind of in shock
Right.
about what has been going on, and as to whether or not it's legal or not. And a lot of these things may just happen to play out in the courts, unfortunately.
Now you have
East
mentioned.
Cleveland is in limbo.
Right. So you mentioned that more than once during this interview. So where's that court process at? And
It hasn't been started. It requires someone to actually file something. So
so why hasn't that happened? Because there's no clerk? Because there's no...
no, you don't need a clerk of council to file with the court.
Okay.
It's more a matter of who feels most aggrieved to go to that next step.
Okay. So who could or should be doing it?
Mark McLean feels like, to agree his rights are being violated. So he could file some type of civil rights action if he chose. Latique, because he is not recognized by the administration, isn't going to be paid.
Okay.
And so if he wanted to push that and say, hey, I'm the lawful council member, make them pay me, he would need to file.
Wow.
No one has, which ought to tell you something, that they are not that secure in their position, because if they were, they would have already went to court to try and get that.
Right.
So
So what we're understanding here before we wrap up for this segment, because I want to give your voice a break, and this has been absolutely riveting. I know that this is going to be sufficient to really get the ball rolling. And when you see this video, please put your questions, comments, concerns, put everything in there, because we want to take your responses and address them as we do this on an ongoing basis. That's why this has been initiated, because we have to bring a comprehensive understanding of the process of power and politics in East Cleveland to every resident, to every person who is going to be viewing this, so we can understand how our city government is supposed to work and how it's not working, and what must be done to correct these very serious and crisis issues that we are having in East Cleveland currently. So with that being said, since nothing from a legal standpoint has been drafted or submitted, it would seem that the only other way to deal with this is how things are currently being handled with the recall efforts. Because if you remove the three who are causing the most illegalities, abuse of power,
dissension, chaos,
going outside the charter, bending the charter to their will, making up whatever rules and mandates that they want. Since there's been no filing of any kind of civil or criminal accusation against them, then the only other thing to do is to have them removed, so that we can get people in there who won't have these kind of agendas and keep the downward spiral of East Cleveland in a state of perpetual motion. So with the recall efforts being now, with the signatures being submitted to the Board of Elections, and all three of them, from what I understand, there's been enough signatures gathered to recall all three. What happens now?
Well, that decision hasn't quite been made yet. Sorry. There was a real big effort put out by a number of people in the community, and the citizens really came out and they signed petitions for all three. At first glance, it would appear that enough signatures were collected to put them on the ballot. However, those signatures have to be
Vetted
first.
Yeah.
Make sure that those people truly live what they say they live.
Right.
They're voters and all of that.
Right.
So that process is still ongoing.
Right, of course.
Once that's been determined, then the Board of Elections can put them on the ballot. Now, we do believe that there will be some pushback.
Of course, there already is.
Of course. And we believe it's going to be based on what I mentioned earlier, the fact that there's no clerk.
Wow.
So that may end up again in court.
Wow.
But we will see. I believe that the Board of Elections will accept the signatures, and I believe that those three will challenge it, and that it may come down to a court fight. And then we'll see
What kind
what
of time
happens.
frame are we looking at?
Don't know. I mean, I can't tell you when, but the election would be in April, so whatever happens has to be timely. There is a time limit on
Okay, so they can't drag this out indefinitely
No.
like they've been trying to do other things. So we know that the signatures have been submitted to the Board of Elections. So we can expect, this is the end of January almost, so we can expect February, March, in less than 3 months for some type of definitive decision and subsequent action to be brought forth to have a recall election against these three. Is that what we're looking at?
If things go the way they appear and the way the citizens are hoping for, they will be on the ballot coming this April. A lot of people have put in a lot of effort, and I believe that the citizens' voices are being heard in just the number of signatures that they collected. Collecting signatures is not a guarantee, as you can see
Right.
from what happened with the mayor. Just because people sign their names on a piece of paper doesn't
Right.
mean that the vote will go your way, but it would appear that there are enough dissatisfied people that they could very well be recalled if they are put on the ballot. We will see what happens. We would like the citizens' voices to be heard one way or another.
Yeah, and that's the utmost point of this, is not only to bring truth to light, but to also motivate each Cleveland resident to come out when this recall election happens.
This would be one of the most important elections because aside from the recall for the mayor, this is the other body that determines your day-to-day life, whether or not
Wow.
you have services, whether
Right.
or not your trash gets picked up, whether or not the raccoons are trapped in your yards.
Right.
These are just basic common services that you have come to expect.
Right.
And it could be greatly effective, and we'll see what happens.
Now, in our next interview, in our next podcast, I want to begin to bring other people into this sphere, but we also need to talk about some other issues that we didn't talk about today that you have informed me of. We know about the East Cleveland Fire Department. The firehouse, as I was made aware, is in a state of it should be condemned. And so there are so many things that vital services are suffering through that the council can't address because they're so busy trying to stuff their own pockets and pull their own moves and have their own battles, not just with each other, but against the mayor and against anyone who is trying to move the city forward, that we can't even focus on the basic important issues because we have such a dysfunctional and even, illegal council that we really can't get anything done for the residents.
Everything requires some level of patience because East Cleveland is not flush with cash. That's why it's in fiscal emergency. So things are being worked on, but everything can't be worked on at once.
Right.
Everything can't be fixed all at one time. You kind of got to fix it as you go. So there's
And
always
then
going to be
there
somebody
should be a
that's unhappy.
systematic approach, like what's more important, what's next important, what's important after that. Where did that kind of common sense go? Is there any there?
I'm sure there is, but like I said, you have to temper that with how much money do you have to spend, and that's where some of the stimulus money that came in, if you could find a way to attribute it to health and safety and things of that nature, then you could use some of that money for some of these services, and be aware that there is also the issue that there is money that we have been allocated that if we do not use it, we will lose it.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
the council
Wow.
is not voting
Even
on,
focusing on that. Oh my God.
and
It's appalling. It's pathetic. It's beyond sad.
when you need money and money is there and they're handing it to you and all you have to do is say, yes, I'll take it, yes, we're going to use it, it's not coming out the city budget.
But
Except
because
the
of the
money.
ignorance and the unfitness of
And because you want to make the mayor look bad.
Wow.
The goal is to make the administration look bad. That's why they've attacked almost every department. They've attacked the police department. Were there problems in the police department? Of course.
Yes, there were,
Yes, there were.
and probably still are. But you
No,
can't.
no department is perfect.
Oh no, it's
You're
never
always
going to
gonna
be.
have some.
Yes, yeah.
So you work with what you got and you try and make it better.
Right.
So I'm not here to say
Right.
they didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
But they've attacked the law. They've attacked the administration. They've attacked every department that they can attack to try and make it all look bad. To say I'm going to come in and I'm going to be the person that's going to whip all this into shape.
Mm-hmm.
The money is still the money. The money doesn't change. I don't care who's sitting in the mayor's seat.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not going to be any big dramatic changes. I don't care who's sitting in the seat
Mm-hmm.
because there's only so much money to work with.
Right. Wow. Well, Heather, you have been amazing. You have been so well informed. I understand a lot better, even though I've been covering this for a couple months now.
It's been an education working in East Cleveland. Trust me.
I can imagine. But just talking to you and having you articulate and just spell out and enable us to understand a lot of these scenarios that we were just like, what? And scratching our head like, what's going on? At least we are making a beginning in bringing the level of comprehension of the average voter or the average person or anyone viewing this at least to another level. And
Well,
that
I want to say that, like I said, I haven't had, personal conversations with any of them. These are educated guesses based on behavior and actions.
right.
So look at it yourself, judge it for yourself, read it for yourself. The charter is online. You can look at the provisions yourself. Section 99 discusses the members, appointment of members. It's there. So you don't have to take my word for it. You can look up those council meetings at any time. Some of them are still on YouTube. The ones before Ms. Peters was fired are on YouTube, and you can see what was going on.
Right.
So you can look at what they've said and then look at what they did and make a decision for yourself. Don't take my word or my observations.
Yes. Yes. And it's because of your explaining the situation that we understand so much better. Now, in our next one, there are a number of things that I know that I want to ask you about behind the scenes. One name I'm going to bring up right now, we have to talk about the machinations and the schemes of Mariah Crenshaw. We have to talk about that because she has attacked me. I know she's attacked you.
She texts me on the regular.
Yeah, and we know that Justin is in that. We're going to see the role that Manziel is making in light of all that. And as we explain these scenarios, you're going to have such a well-rounded understanding of what's really going on in City Cleveland, both on the surface and both beneath the surface, that you won't be able to come to any other conclusions than the conclusions that we're coming to, because what we present won't lead you in any other direction except what's actually happening and where we actually are, and also what we must do to get beyond this. So Heather, I thank you so much. Is there anything
You're
else
very welcome.
that you would like to say before we depart from here?
No, just keep your eyes open, City of East Cleveland. Don't just listen to whatever you hear. They count on you to not read, to be ignorant,
Right.
and to just take whatever they say at face value. At this point in the process, you can't afford to just listen to just anybody. You can't even afford to just listen to what I say. Look at it all
Right.
and judge for yourself.
So when is the next council meeting or meeting? Because it seems like now there is no stated schedule. They just meet whenever.
Well, that was only because the whole budget issue.
Right.
I believe the council meetings are the first and third Tuesday. So
Okay.
we just had one this past week, so not this week, but the following week. So
Are there any other
council-
special secret meetings that we should be privy to? Because
Well, there are committee meetings. Those are the additional meetings, like Makery and Stevenson just had a finance committee meeting on Thursday, which was interesting, where they wanted to discuss the budget that they just passed. So I didn't understand what that was about, but
Oh my
I didn't go.
goodness. Okay.
And you can't attend them by Zoom right now, so you'd have to actually physically show up in person. But they have.
But how do you even
meetings
know
on
when they're gonna
Tuesday
pop
and
up?
Thursday. You'd have to be in the building
Oh,
because
wow.
they post them like outside the courtroom door, outside
Right.
the
But the
council
public never
office.
gets any.
But it's supposed to be posted on the website.
Right.
And
But that is
and
no
they're
longer
supposed
up
to
and
be-
running.
And when the council clerks were there, they sent out an email to parties who asked for that information to be emailed to them. I don't know that that's being done.
Oh my goodness. So y'all, we're gonna stay on top of this. If there are any other pertinent meetings that we believe that the public should be privy to or being able to participate in, we will do our best to bring that coverage to you. But in the meantime, we will continue to be following up on the state of East Cleveland and why. And this is Heather Mccollough,
Stay tuned.
the Assistant Law Director, and Fred Barkley. We will see y'all. Bye.